In this video, we're going to talk about using icon fonts. There are several different icon fonts out there. Some of them you pay for, some of them are free, some of them a bit of both. We're going to look at a really popular one. It's used all over the place on the internet, and once I show it to you, you're going to start realizing different websites that are using this icon font set, and you'll start to recognize it. We're going to take a look at one called Font Awesome Icons, and there is a free version, and that's what I'm going to ask you to use. Please don't pay for stuff you don't have to pay for, and there are plenty of good free icons that are part of this font set. So I'm going to show you how to get this set up in your site and then how to start using those icons in your coding. Why spend time talking about icon fonts? Well, our world and our mode of communication is getting increasingly visual as more and more things are digital. And using icons actually conveys visual meaning more and more commonly. And as icons become part of our communication lexicon, I think it's important for us to use them in thoughtful ways. And also, again, it's one of those elements that can add visual interest to your site and even enhance the communicative nature of your site to give a sense of what's going on in sections of a page. So icon fonts can be really useful in delineating sections, giving us sort of symbolic identity to a section that performs a specific function that can be useful in navigation. And like I said, also just adding some visual interest in terms of your design. So that's why I think it is useful. It's also another type of external resource that you can add to your site. And that's one of the things we're really learning in this class is getting all those external resources to work together in your website. So that's what we're going to look at in this video. The first step is actually to go to the Font Awesome site. You'll notice here there's a whole bunch of icons, and you want to always go with the free icons, and you can easily select those, and you'll see there's just tons and tons of them. And I'm sure even as I'm showing you the pictures, you can imagine some useful purposes for these, or even just some fun purposes for these. They're very easy to add to your website, but before you start using them, you actually need to add a little bit of code to the head of your web pages. So if you go to the start section and you give it the information that it's asking for, then you can hit the create and use this kit. It might ask you for your email. It's honestly, every time I come here, it's a little bit different. Now, I actually have an account already, so I'm able to go into my account and just ask it to generate a font kit for me. They call them a font kit. And all it is just this single line of code that you want to add to your site. And if you notice, they're very nice, and they even show you how to put it in your site. It goes in the head code in your site, and then you're good to use Font Awesome. Okay, so, and again, if it's your first time doing this, it might ask you to give an email. You can go ahead and do that, and then it might send you this code through email rather than just looking at it directly on the site. I would recommend setting up an account if you're going to be doing coding on a repeating basis, because that'll make it easier for you. You can just find your font kit in your account, and you can generate new font kits easily in there. This is the only line of code that we need. I'm just going to grab this, and I'm going to go to one of my web pages. Okay, so I've got my line of code, and I'm just going to paste it right in the head just as it showed. And now that I have my line of code in there, I'm ready to actually start using Font Awesome within my page. Now notice, though script is a new tag to us, we do recognize some things about this. For example, the source attribute that is a pointer. So if you realize what we've been doing throughout these last couple of modules, we've been learning about different ways to use pointers to integrate external resources into our HTML page. So link and script and IMG and A, all of those tags are just different kinds of pointers that we use to tell our page and tell the browser as it's rendering our page how to find external information and bring it all in and integrate it into the finished whole that is our website. So this is just yet another one of those sources that we're integrating into our page. So now that I've got that line of code in there, I'm ready to go. And so we can go back to Font Awesome and take a look at the free icons, and we can search them. So remember, we had a few different headings in these pages. So if we think about our sections, we had backgrounds. In the Richard page, we have historical information, and then we've got important themes. So what would be some good icons to maybe say something about that? I mean, historical could be really easy, right? Maybe something like this. And notice, once again, They just give you this line of code. So I'm going to go ahead and copy that code, and then I'm pasting it into my HTML page. And notice it's got this I tag here. And that I actually just stands for inline, and all that means, remember we talked about inline versus block. Inline just means it's going to just continue on. It just will be a single character in this case, and then the rest will flow right from it. So if we want to just double check that it's there, we can go ahead and reload my page. And there you see we've got a little hourglass. And at the moment, it has the exact same styling as the H2 because I put it inside the H2 tag. Now, let me just note, if I had positioned that here outside my H2 tag, you see what happened. So we definitely want it inside the H2 tag, but as you can see, we can apply CSS styling to these Font Awesome icons, so that's pretty neat. There are also some transformations of these icons that you can do that are just inherent to Font Awesome. So then there are also some other things that you can do to these icons. So one of them, for example, and I'm just looking on this list of styling features here, and a bunch of these are just available. You can do just with the free icon set, which is what we have. So for example, if you've got your icon, they've got the small to large, and then they also have just a numeric, you know, how many times bigger. So that's very easy to resize. So let's say this, we wanted it a little bit bigger. And again, we already have the beginning part here. In this case, they're using camera, we're using hourglass. So we already have that in there. We don't need that. We just need that little bit at the end that would be the sizing piece, and that's this, okay? And it doesn't have to be 10, I'm just using that to make it really clear that it's working. Okay, and so now I've got a giant hourglass. Obviously that is too big, but there's that. You can rotate the icons, and again, it has some different possible variable values. I'm going to do a 90-degree rotation, which again should be pretty clear. All right, and you can even do, now again, be very, very sparing with this because remember we talked about in our universal design to avoid unnecessary animation. You can do things like this where you can animate the icons. I really wouldn't recommend it in this case, but it's possible to do. So just for purposes of demonstration, you can see that it is possible to do. The other thing I do want to note is you can style these just like you would anything else. So let's say we want to apply some, like a different color to the hourglass or to our icons in general. We can easily do that. And in this case, because this is the only thing we've used the I tag for, we can use that to add some style. So let's just say something like this. And again, we want to go to our CSS page to do this, and I'm just using I because that is the tag that is containing this icon font. And you see that it has changed the color. It's still behaving like H2 otherwise, but because we've applied the color to this specific tag, it has changed the color. So we can use these now just like we would anything else. And they function like a font, as it indicates by calling it Font Awesome. And there's just tons of different images we can use. So the key things that you want to look at on the site are in the styling section, and there is a link on our website so you can see that. And there are just lots of different things like, you know, stacking icons like this. So there's, you know, once you start playing with these, you really can do a lot of things with them. And you can even use them as icons in a list for your bulleted lists. You can use Font Awesome icons. So these really can add some visual interest. They're fun. It's an easy way of putting images in there without having to use image files, which are obviously a lot bulkier. It's very easy, as you can see. It just took us a few minutes to get started and then start to be able to add these into our page and start styling them with all the information that we already know about CSS styling.